Everybody, welcome into the Beehive. Today we are gonna have a little open mic. We're gonna see what the chat has for questions, and we're gonna get some questions from Space Miner, who's joining us here live in the chat. Welcome in, Space Miner. How you doing?
I'm doing good. Thank you for having me.
Rockamos, welcome in. Chew, good to see you. Vegas Stacker, welcome in. How you doing? Good to see you. We're just popping in here and say hello to some people and get some chat. A lot going on these days. OTG, good to see you, bud. Welcome in. OTG,
what up, y'all?
Von Kanyestein. All right. OTG's always got an interesting handle. So, yeah, what's new? So I put up a what's cooking in the bullion soup thumbnail. So I thought we'd
awesome.
Start off with some of the basics. And yeah, I just put out a little video from JP Cortez with, what is it, Sound Money Defense League. Sound Money Defense League, and he had an amazing comment that a legislator that he was talking to when he was talking about making money lawful in the states again, and she got to thinking that when he was talking about bullion that they were talking about soup, and she was asking what all this information had to do with soup. So I think we have quite a ways to go on understanding of our monetary system, and I think we're just kind of cracking the surface nowadays to one of the reasons that got me stacking, and it's very interesting to see it be possibly starting to come out into the open a little bit. So what's some of your take on it, Space Miner?
You know, that watching that interview, that got me good. You know, what's this? I was wondering what did he mean? Like when she said, "What's this have to do with soup?" I'm thinking, I don't get it either. You know, like, is this an old pun she's using? And no, she literally meant soup, and it took me longer to think of soup than it did metal, and but it really goes to show. I don't know if a lot of y'all talk publicly about precious metals with your friends, family, coworkers, etc., but a lot of people just really don't get it. And so when we're sitting here trying to convince these guys that they should be, they're not even getting it yet, much less why they should be. You know, and so I think it's important for us to maybe bring it back to those fundamentals as well. Yeah, like you said, B.
Yeah, Vegas. No music tonight. We're just gonna hang out and chat metals, and so much going on within the last few months, and a lot of it relating to money. So yeah, we're just out here. We thought we'd maybe get some questions in the chat. What are you guys watching? What are you thinking out there? And yeah, just talk about some of the fundamentals, and including what bullion has to do with soup, which is not a lot when we're talking precious metals, but but yeah, that's you know, and I mean, I think that, you know, we think we know, you know, we just come out here and talk kind of openly and with an idea that a lot of people understand what we're saying, but sometimes, you know, a lot of them probably don't. You know, I think within our maybe tight-knit stacking community, some do, but yeah, just when you get out there to the average person, I don't think we really understand much about the monetary system, let alone that it was connected to gold and that's real money and sound money and what the difference is. So pretty.
Well, B, do you think that maybe we have a responsibility that when we're talking outside of our circle, to pay more mind to the language we use, maybe either lean on layman's references or, explain our vocabulary as we use it. But if we're going to ask that question, we'd also have to have an understanding of, like, would we even recognize when we're supposed to be defining our terminology? Because it's so common to us as well.
Yep.
I say a silver round, and people literally have no idea what I mean.
Right. Right. Yeah. OTG. I like your comment there. OTG says, I believe crystallized osmium is humanity's key to break through the ceiling of the dome and get us to the stars and beyond.
Dude, it'll withstand it. If there are stars and beyond.
Right, right.
Oh
Yeah.
man. Yeah, I was I was shocked that it was said out loud, but I was not shocked that she said it. Like, you would think a person would have enough sense to, like, stand back and kind of, like, think for a second, like, put those two pieces of the puzzle together and say, hey, he has not mentioned soup once. Should I be mentioning soup?
Right. Yeah, I mean that's you just I mean well that's you just have no idea. I mean, bullion as far as she knew is soup related, so and she, if you've never heard it otherwise, it just goes to show that they have no idea. And like he said later in the interview, he goes on to say that a lot of the people who would seem to think, or he thought that a lot of them would think that we still have our fiat backed by gold. So that was a shocking statement to me that people still believe that we're tied to gold. And when I hear people talk inflation, a lot of times you can tell they think it's just the price is going up, which it is. But a lot of times they'll attribute that to, like, oh, the shop owner is trying to gouge the customers, or they don't really understand where it's coming from originally. And if you don't understand where inflation is coming from originally, you're going to have a really hard time, nailing some of these things down. I mean, it comes down to, hey, Rockmoss, good to see you. It comes down to understanding inflation. At least for me, a big part of it did. And that's what gold and silver helps to flush that understanding out a little bit, because that's what your regression, the regression theory, where you tie all the prices back to what they were worth yesterday. That's kind of how we get up thinking, oh, the prices are going to be the same. Or we know what we paid for them yesterday, kind of the Rafi Farber take on it there. And so, yeah, it goes back to gold and silver. Our monetary for thousands of years was just gold and silver. I mean, it just is money. And they didn't call it money back then because it just is money, so, but, yeah. And so, inflation is literally gets its word and meaning mostly from the monetary system inflation of just creating fiat paper without backing, and that debases the value of your own currency. So yeah, I mean it's the basic supply and demand fundamental, right? Space Miner, are you there?
Yeah, man, I don't know if it's just me, but you went a bit digital there.
Oh, okay, yeah, I think we must have broke up because you weren't answering. But yeah, so I mean, I was just saying it kind of goes back to your basic fundamental and demand supply. And if people don't realize that there's an institution called the Fed that can just kind of print up money out of thin air, and that's where our inflation comes from. You don't have an understanding of why your goods in the store are going up if it's not for the store owner just raising the prices for no reason. So if you don't have that understanding of inflation, you're going to miss the boat in lots of areas, right?
I definitely agree. We're not taught money in the traditional sense of money, meaning tangible goods, store of wealth, representation of labor, you know, or value of labor, you could say. And it's like it all kind of comes back to like what establishes money in the first place and why we use it, right? And because we don't gauge off of a hard tangible asset anymore, it it creates this figment parallel world of like let me just jump to the end of this. The majority of the population has been tricked into thinking that paper fiat is money. That these IOUs are money.
Mm-hmm.
That and I really think before you can even address the issues of inflation, they have to understand that we're already living in debt. You know, this is just like in any other circumstance where somebody is living in a situation of debt, you know, and until you can get people to acknowledge and address the debt and where the debt comes from, they'll never even begin to understand the full picture, the full spectrum of inflation, you know.
I don't know.
Am I capturing what you're saying here?
Well, for me, I was, I grasped it more just from realizing that, you know, firstly, what got me into it is realizing the lies. I was just seeing lies coming, from left and right, and that got me to looking at the fact that we are being lied to so much, and then I got to seeing that the monetary system, there's all kinds of lies and corruption in the monetary system. I mean, that's even biblically, right? I mean, the love of money being the root of all evil. So that's, you're going to find some corruption when you start looking there. And when I found out that, you think about the gold rush and you think about the Egyptians having gold, and it just starts to think, well, it's always been valuable. And then you start looking into history and the monetary system, and you realize, oh, it is money. It's always been money. Of course it's money. It is money just by what it is. And so once you realize that gold was money and there's only X amount and it's so hard to get out, and so that inflation is controlled kind of by the law of demand and manpower and just through nature itself. And once I got my mind around that, and then I realized that, oh, we used to be on a gold standard and we couldn't print money unless we went off the gold because that kept everything in check. And then when I found out that, oh yeah, we closed the gold window, and now when the president shuts that window, he says, oh, but don't worry, to our foreign trading partners, we're going to continue to be honest trading partners. That was literally his next line was, don't worry though, we're going to keep honest books, is basically what he was saying, because otherwise how would you trust the dollar, see? And
Well,
so that made me realize, oh wow, I mean, that's a huge lie, and the people believed it for a while. But then you see like the bailout in 2008, and I started tying all that together, and I'm like, oh man, do I ever see the picture clearly, that we're just fraud and corruption and printing like crazy without anything backing it, just so that you can get the laws enacted that you want, so you can get more power and authority, and the corruption just grows. And to me, that explained what I was seeing quite vividly. And so that's I think it's fairly easy just to see through that lens of understanding the laws of basic nature and reality, and that gold is a finite and it's hard to get out and it takes manpower and there's only so much to get around, doesn't go bad. I mean, all of its fundamentals is what makes it the natural money. And once, because that's to me something that's helped me a lot is trying to see reality as for what it is. And that's to me what helped me a little see the monetary system as the gold and silver, and there's a reality to it, and there's laws of nature that work within this reality, and it's honest goods and honest measures and weights. And that's mostly what got me to that's what got me stacking. And I was kind of questioning myself a little bit, like maybe I'm tying too much into it, maybe I'm thinking that I'm seeing stuff and I'm really not, and I'm just all looking into it too hard. But over the years, my conviction only grows stronger. And now with things going the way now we're talking about auditing the gold, and that wasn't even gold back in the conversation. That would people laughed you out of the room and mocked you for saying that could ever even be a thing again. And now here we are. See. So I think that, we're just starting to scratch the surface publicly to what I started, seeing quite a while ago, and started thinking that I might be right enough that I need to start stacking. Now I know I have gotten a lot of pushback from the public and other stackers, because this kind of is leading me into the whole pumpers. There's the whole fight back against the pumpers, and I think a lot of people would consider me a pumper, but I'm not trying to pump it. I'm just trying to get people to see that, look, we're in for bad trouble with our money. If you took gold and silver out, I would be pushing land, or the other things that we prep with anyway, the food and the water, and someone in here comments, some people stack. Okay, Rockama. Some people prep both. Some people prep gold and silver. Some prep foods. Right. Some prep both. And yeah, it's good. You want to have food and water, but it can only last so long, and that's where the gold and silver comes in. Is it doesn't perish, and it's gonna buy foods even into that time, no matter how bad it gets. And yeah, I don't know.
I want to run on that for a second while you're right here talking
Sure.
about that. Is the gold, silver, food, and you're exactly right. Food doesn't last forever, right? And so, but personally, I'll just rock it personally, is like, look, man, I take care of the home first. Before I ever buy an ounce of silver, I take care of the home. I pay my bills off, I pay my bills off, and I make sure I have food in the house. I make sure I have an extra store of food in the house, and I store the food as long as I can. But at some point, I'm just turning over food, because you got to cycle your cans, right?
Yep.
And so, which goes to demonstrate what the original wealth was. It was abundance, and when you have abundance that you can't distribute or that you can't store, then really you just have waste, and so like when you've got as much food as you can possibly eat before you, like, if your food's expiring before you get into it, that's no longer wealth, that's waste. You see what I'm saying? And so now you need to get beyond that, and you need to start, all right, where does my extra go? And I'm one of the people hate me for saying it, but I'm one of the guys that says spend your money while it's worth something. Buy something with your money. I don't believe in saving money. I believe in spending money. Money is meant to
Are
be
you
spent.
saying fiat or money? Fiat or money? You need to clarify on that. Are you saying don't spend your you mean you spend your gold and silver, or don't spend your gold and silver?
Hell yeah, I do, dude. Like, spend all, because there's you got to have some wisdom in the matter, right? You don't blow your wad all at once, but like, again, kind of back to the waste over value, right? Waste over investment, right? Um, if I have a bunch of metal sitting around and it's not doing a damn thing, right? And I'm thinking, okay, this will gain me 15 per, or let's say 5%. Let's just start at 5%, right? Let's say this will gain me 5% over X amount of time, right? But if food's going up at 10%, or your gasoline goes up 10%, or your bullets go up 10%, well, you need to be buying bullets before they go up 10%, at least up into the match of your accumulation in value of your metal. You see what I'm saying? And
Yeah.
so and that's kind of what I'm talking about spend your money while it's worth something. Because like, look, it does you no good if, you know, if you're storing your metal to buy land later, right?
Yeah.
And land goes to some extraordinary value that your precious metal never came up to. Well, then you lost, and you didn't have, that wasn't the that wasn't the best profit capture, is maybe what I should say. It might have been a good investment, but if you're after increasing your profit and increasing your stores and increasing your values, you need to keep your money moving. You need to keep your fiat, your paper, and your money moving in order to make them good. Just like your food in your pantry. If you don't eat it, it's not worth anything. If you don't spend your money, hell, it's not even money anymore. It's not money until you spend it. It's not money until you spend it. It's an investment, it's a store of value, and it's a million things, but it's not money until you spend it.
Yeah, and that's where store of value is so important, and that's where gold and silver shine. Is their store of value? They continue to store value through thick and thin, and possibly increase greatly when ridiculous things are done in the monetary system.
Right. And I do agree. And it's important to have a store of value to hedge against inflation,
Yes.
you know? And usually your metals are doing better, or are performing stronger than your inflation is of detriment. You see, like, not always, like there's always critical moments, right? But like right now, if you invested in gold a year ago, dude, you're up.
Yeah.
If you put enough money into this, the mere act of just putting, like, if a guy was to put a full year's labor into that and then just sit on it for the next year, sell off, his profit and just keep his initial margin, there's a good chance he could ride that for a long time,
Yeah.
you know,
Yeah.
like at least supplement his life, you see. And that's where store of value is important. But again, it ain't worth a damn. Like these people that are like like you hear the XRP and the Bitcoin guys all the time. I'm holding this forever. I'm kind of like, you're a dip. Like, why would you hold it forever? Like, it's not worth a damn until you sell it and buy something with it. You know? Like, think about, like, if you could buy a piece of land and now it's paid off. You buy your truck and it's paid off. You bought all your bills out for the year. They're paid off. You bought out all your food. It's paid off. Anything you do beyond that is now profit.
Yeah. Yeah, for sure. Where we're at now, that's a thing. The fiat monetary system is a big problem for the U.S. And I don't think, I
What up,
I don't know
Stuart?
how
Yes,
good
it's live. What up, Silver and Cigars?
Stuart.
Sorry, I had to interrupt you, buddy. Like, Stuart was like, "Is this live? What the fuck?" And apparently, we have not been saying hi to people, especially our favorite troll, OTG. And I love you, OTG. You're such an awesome troll, bro.
No
I
doubt.
love joining you in
Surfer,
chat.
good to see you, Stacking Surfer. Uh, yeah. So
I'm
now
sorry to
I gotta
interrupt
keep
you, but
going, and you totally interrupted me, and now I gotta.
oh, I know, what an asshole.
No, it's fine.
No, please, let's return to the store values, the spending of money, the
Yeah.
you know trying to get ahead, paying off your bills, the fiat system, the debt.
Yeah, so the fiat system right now is the big problem in the US, and I don't know how it happens in Venezuela. Like at what point did the Venezuelans realize, okay, it's our money problem, but like I think I'm surprised kind of personally that I'm so onto it. It's so obvious to me, whereas a lot of the mainstream is still not quite grasping it. And like we're under heavy inflation. I mean, we're talking some goods are going up 50%, a year. And it's like, I mean, numbers are really starting to turn in places, and they'll come back down sometimes a little bit, but then they're popping back up again, and uh, so
Well,
I
it's that
I
old
don't know
thing.
what.
Wages up a little, prices up a lot.
Yeah, and I'm surprised that game is going on this long, and people haven't kind of come around to the gist of what's taking place. I would have thought we would, in like the bullion remark in the soup is such a poignant comment. Like within our inner workings, we don't even understand the monetary system, and it's such a big problem for all of the U.S. Like all of us are experiencing this, and it becomes a problem for everyone. Because if you're going along thinking that inflation is just 2%, but it's actually 50% for the last 3 years, it causes a lot of chaos and grief, and people don't necessarily realize where it's coming from. Like I see that happening kind of as well, and it's interesting to see when you don't know the truth. A lie can really get to you, I guess. You don't even know where to. That's it, kind of. A lot of people don't know where to address their grievances, so they just kind of go crazy or something. I don't know.
you know I think we're past. I think the culture, like sometimes the culture grows so strong, echo chamber so big, it's so loud, that it when you go to a fire, sometimes a fire gets so big it creates its own weather and its own ecosystem, and it will sustain that fire. Like it'll sustain a big boy fire, right? And I think that's kind of where we're at in our culture now too, that we have this willingly ignorant populace. Now, I can forgive ignorance, but willingful ignorance is just stupidity. And we have a willingful ignorant population in front of us, and they're going to support each other and support each other and support each other until there's no ground left to stand on and they can't support their own weight. And this is when the truth hits them. And so our job is to build the boat. you know we got to build this boat, and we got to say, look guys, they're going to do whatever they're going to do. There's no stopping them now. They're too big. They got too much momentum. They'll hit a wall somewhere, and when they do, the whole thing is going to smash down. You're either on the boat or you're not. And this is kind of where we're at right now.
Yeah, I know. Yeah, that's kind of surprising to me that so few are seeing that. It seems to me like it would be so I guess what is that, brainwashing? Like we would never think that, I guess you always think, well, someone who knows in the banking system would tell everybody about it if there was something going on. I mean, I don't know, but how do you get to this mindset where, no one looks at the monetary system for a big part of our problem?
Stuart, you know, I think Stuart just nailed it.
Right? Yeah.
Or no, it was Raka nailed it. Ignorance and apathy. And that apathy is extremely important to this. And then Stuart nailed it again, who
Yeah,
says,
exactly.
"Come
I
get
was
a
gonna
bigger boat."
say, and Stewart. Yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah.
like I wanted to capture that too. Don't get me wrong, but like for real, there's enough of us out here, right? There are enough of us that are of the right mindset. There are enough of us out there that are capable and resilient and have taken proper steps to prepare, or at least will recognize a bad situation coming, like a worse situation coming, I should say. And we kind of see that with what JP is doing, right? And so when nations split, usually it's more of a tribal thing, or, you get these big divisions of values, right? And
Yeah.
so if you have a strong enough group of people, with a strong enough value set, that in these times of crisis, those do become who is leaning on each other, and those become also the authorities in the process. You see, and it kind of does become a reset of values, whether or not our life's all Starbucks and cushions. But
Yeah.
I don't know. Did I stray too far off the rail there?
No, it's relevant. Relevant.
Oh, Silver and Cigars, you're going to be on that boat, bro. Stacking Surfer will be near the boat, surfing the wake.
Yeah.
Welcome on board anytime. He's just having too much fun. But I don't know, man. What do we do? Like, where are we at? Like, this is happening fast, right? And so, kind of like back to those fundamentals. This is happening fast. Do we still have control over this? Do we still have, is there enough of us out there doing something that are we still making a difference? Or has the tide turned against us?
Well, what I will say is like I'm not sure. I mean, if you're talking about for making a difference in the community, that might be one thing or another. Gold and silver itself are gonna happen whether who's got it or who doesn't. Whoever isn't holy,
Agreed.
then they're not gonna participate in that thing. But I mean, that's gonna happen whether we're there or not. Might take a while, but yeah, I don't know. I think most people, I mean, we're out here kind of trying to wake people up a little bit, but I think for the most part, they're not even caring enough to look like, they don't I don't know. They just aren't thinking in those terms for whatever reason.
Did you
And
see Stacking Surfer's comment?
about it coming up on Netflix.
No, no. He says, took a week to order cash from Wells Fargo. It came directly from the Fed. Not a good sign. Once it arrived, I turned it into gold and silver.
Right.
It's like, yeah, buddy.
Yep. And
And
his comment about being on Netflix, yeah, they do tell you a lot ahead of. It's kind of like brainwashing you, getting you ready for what's coming, and they tell you before it happens and get you ready for it. And
predictive programming.
predictive programming, yeah,
Yeah. And that's a real thing.
it is. It's you would think that wouldn't be a thing, but it is. Indeed, it is. That's what we. It's like we got taught, or that we don't have the propaganda in our country, but we do so strongly. Uh, yeah.
You, I think you're kind of hitting on, when you're talking about that propaganda, I think sometimes we forget that, like, just because we don't believe a certain way, we think it's like not a thing. But when you start looking, it when you got major people of influence and power that believe something different than you, it really doesn't matter what you believe about it, because it's what they believe about it when they're doing it, right? So
Yeah.
kind of like back to the predictive programming is what I'm hitting at.
Okay.
Is like, these people got rules, in their little circles, that they got to tell you. They got to play the
Yeah.
fair game on you. They got to tell you. You got to have a choice. You'll consent or not. It's a game of consent.
Yep.
And it doesn't matter how we believe. Like, you could believe in God or not, the devil or not. It doesn't really matter. Some of these people do, and they're playing spiritual games on you, whether you believe it or not,
Yeah.
because they believe they are. You see, and they're going to act it out as such.
Right.
And so when we see this predictive programming, like, they are issuing a statement of consent, like, you either say something about it or not, but like, there it is. If they can think it, they can do it. I'd like to say,
Yeah.
maybe I'm being a little too strong about this right now, but are we seeing
No.
it though?
Yeah. Yeah. No doubt. I mean, it's playing out for those that are watching. There's things that can be seen anyway. Yeah.
Well, and kind of like what you were saying earlier too, like, you've been seeing these signs like kind of itching at the surface, right? And they're starting to scratch off and peel off now, and we're starting to see the signs. And Stacking Surfer brought up an excellent piece of evidence to those signs. Like, and he's right. It's bad when it's coming straight from the Fed. Like I said a while back, I challenge anybody to go in the bank and pull $1 million. Like, they'll go to their buddy the bank, who goes to their buddy the bank, and they're going to all pull the lint out of their pockets and deliver it a week later. But if they're not borrowing from
Straight from the
their other
Fed.
banks anymore, sorry, go ahead.
I said, yeah, straight from the bank or straight from the Fed. I mean, yeah, like you was saying earlier, banks won't be able to raise it, and you'll get it in a few months directly from the Fed, freshly printed.
Freshly printed, yeah. But I want to speak again. Dang it, you got me. Sorry, you shouldn't have brought me online. Anyways, back to why precious metals backing a precious metal standard, a gold and silver standard, right? Why it's so important. It's forced accountability. If the institution, you don't judge something based on its misuse, you judge something based on its proper use, right? And when you are properly using precious metals, a direct tangible money, you either have it or you don't.
Yeah.
You either want it or you don't. You either have the money for it or you don't. And it's a no debt, perfectly ethical situation.
Yeah, and I want to touch on that. So when I was exactly when you make a transaction in the old day when it was silver and gold, you hand the guy the silver or gold, he gives you the product. That's the end of the deal. You guys each walk your own way. If you got good metal, you got solidly paid. If you got a good product, you got what you wanted, and that was the end of the deal. Now I'll make a purchase online, and for someone in another state who I know and we trust each other, and since they don't know how to run the computer and do things, so I'll order something from them and have it delivered to them, and they'll get me the money in time. And I've made a few times now. I've made a purchase. It goes through to like Home Depot or whatever for goods, and it sends me my little notice. Okay, here's your payment. Here's what you paid. X for this. It'll be delivered there. It all looks legit. And like a week or two later, I'll get an email saying, "Oh, we're sorry that we had to flag that for fraud because it went to a different address than your own." And money back in the day wasn't something where they can just stop because they want to. When you make that original transaction, it's over, it's done with. And now it's like, if we decide, or if your credit's still there, how do you know that person? So I'm not sure if this should be legit money or not on my, it's like, well, you lose your power of your own self. I mean, yes, it was me. Yes, I ordered it. Yes, it should be good. Send it through. You're stopping me. So I don't know. Anyway.
Well, I think that's a demonstration of us turning over our own authority, our own self accountability, our own responsibility, and we delegate it to these other people, and then we wonder why everything goes wrong.
Hey,
You
Two
know,
Tin Stacks, welcome in, Southeast Stacker, Two Tin Stacks. Good to see you. Yeah.
what up,
Daryl,
y'all? Welcome in. Oh, hey, Daryl. Good to see you. Yeah, back to that accountability, man. I really like that is so important and it's lacking in our society, right? Accountability from the top down. And I mean down to the green paper in our wallets, you know. And there was an honesty, an efficacy, and a surety of your goods, with a gold and silver standard. This is real stuff and it's happening now. Somebody has it in their hand right now, you know, and it's not like a refund, you know, shouldn't take 5 days to process. You see what I'm saying?
Exactly.
It
And
shouldn't take 5 days.
we have like exactly, and our payments now still take forever. Like checks are even faster again nowadays. They'll hold our money for like ever, and it's like they're just sitting there making interest on everybody's money for days, and they're like, okay, here you go. It's like, come on now. We have now. If we're gonna go electronic, give us the benefit of it, for crying out loud. But anyway.
Well, and it's because at some point we're turning over our responsibility and our accountability. Like, look, we do it willingly. We do it with consent every time. We check the boxes, we put in the codes, we enter in the numbers, you know. And but can you even live out an ethical life anymore in our country? You see, like, are we so saturated now with these false premises of how life should operate that we can't even make sense of a simple refund, a simple payment, like, never mind. I kind of fell off track there, but we
Yeah,
need that accountability back.
yeah, and your payment should be your payment, and that stuff. Just I believe that people should be committed for the crime and not like big, like. This is funny. So I just took my son to one of his classes that he's going to, and we were talking about speed bumps on the way over there, and he's like, "Yeah, I don't like these things," and I'm like, "Yeah," and in my mind, I'm thinking, that type of thing where we do this stupid stuff. For me, I would just rather the crime gets the punishment.
Yep.
Like, if somebody speeds down your street, you give them a ticket, and they have to pay it, and that's okay. I mean, not that I'm big on speed limits or tickets, but if it's causing that much trouble, then get the ticket. And for me, that's instead of pouring every few feet these big speed bumps that, like, if you're in a hurry, you're gonna rip your car apart just trying to get, go on the road that should be made for travel. It just drives me nuts. So, but like, lots of little stuff like that where we do these big workarounds, and it's just like it creates so much problem for everyone. Where if it would just be upright in the first place, we wouldn't all have to stretch so far out of line. But that's a rant for another channel, probably, or something. But
You hear it out of my mouth all the time, and I'm sorry if I'm going to disrupt the stream saying it, but I my go-to reference is the Pharisees trying to keep the Ten Commandments. They built 70 laws to make sure that they didn't violate 10, and then they built 70 more to make sure they didn't violate those 70.
right,
know
yep,
and kind of like a kid, when we were young, we weren't required to wear helmets, right? But when you bonked your head and it hurt like hell, all of a sudden you understood the necessity of a helmet, but it was still a choice, right?
Yeah.
But in that choice is the responsibility. Like therein is the responsibility built, you know, where like actions have consequences, right? And and if I want to prevent or diminish those consequences, I can take other actions, right? And but when you make it a rule or a law or a must that the helmet goes on, but nobody's ever experienced the consequences of not having the helmet,
Yeah.
then they have no idea why they're wearing the helmet. And they also don't have the consequences that come with not wearing a helmet too. Like so, you know, you learn how to ride a bike pretty quick when you wreck because it hurts.
Right.
You know, you figure it out pretty quick. But if you stick a kid in a bubble, it's going to take him forever to figure out how to ride a bike. If he ever does,
Yeah.
if you ever take the training wheels off.
Yeah, for sure. Welchco, good to see you. 3D Woodworks, thanks for popping in. Good to see you.
Yeah, I'm with OTG 2A. They have them, we have them.
Yeah.
That's what I'm saying, man. But yeah, I'm with you, B. Like, I would like to see more education, less mitigation. Um, I don't. I think most of our nanny laws can go, and I think they could be replaced with actual freaking consequences for stupid behavior. I think individual actions should be weighed individually,
I
you
agree.
know?
I agree.
And I think if Billy is going to disrupt the whole class and throw his chips at everybody, then take Billy's chips away.
Yeah, take OTG's chips away.
Yeah, OTG's a menace. But, you know, back if you want to segue back to the money, the gold standard thing again, that wasn't a way of issuing responsibility and consequence. Because if you didn't put the coin in the bucket, they didn't have a coin to work with.
Yeah.
And nowadays, they don't need you to put a coin in the bucket. They've got their own coin machine that fills up their big bucket.
Yep.
They don't need your coin. They can make their own coin, but they can't run out and just make a gold coin. That has consequences, you know?
Yeah. Luckily, I mean, for them, it seems like, this is probably the most frustrating thing for me saying this, but, I think that we're so far removed as a people. I mean, the people that have it have it. Don't get me wrong, but for those that don't and don't understand it, I mean, we're just going to move into this new system. It's probably going to underline the rails of some new digital XRP or whatever, and it's going to level the playing fields for the countries involved. And they'll probably revalue it, and so therefore the stockpilers will gain. And for those who have it, we might gain a little too. But for your average folk, they're just going to be now on whatever the government says is going to be their new allowance if they jump through all their other hoops they want jumped through.
Dude, I think the big transition, I'm guessing, this is just me. I'm guessing most people will actually hardly freaking notice. It'll hardly change a thing about their day.
Yeah,
That outside of the price of bread, you know,
yeah,
like they really won't notice the transition as significantly as other populaces, because they don't have certain things at risk, right? If your land's not at risk, you're not worried about land taxes, you know? If you don't keep guns in the house, you're not worried about gun rights,
yeah,
right? And
yeah,
so maybe that's part of the game, is that you keep them so stupid, broke, and busy that they that by the time you've implemented all your changes, they thought it was just a change in web address.
right.
And they don't have time to go figure it out. They don't have time to go learn all this. Meanwhile, there's people with like businesses, land, home, mortgages, you know, and maybe other people working politics as an example, like important politics, I would say. But
Yeah, it's interesting. So Southeast Actor makes an interesting point, or at least for me, it's interesting. He says we had the freedom to do some stupid crap in the '70s, and we had the freedom to deal with the consequences. And I like that because there's a natural order to, again, what I would say is reality, that has a way with dealing with your actions and how things would, like, if he the way I'm taking his example here, the '70s, what, and you could say the same things about the '60s and '70s. There, the whole free love, and there's quite a wave there, but reality has a way of ironing those things out. But we also, and then you look on the other side of that, is what's new, at least for me to see, is the amount that we're trying to control it from the top down. You know, is interesting to me. Whereas a lot of seems like a lot of history has been kind of grassroots, and I feel like we're almost kind of rounding this corner where we all got thrown onto a live set of a live movie, and our real life has become the drama is trying to be run top down, kind of like what's the movie, like Stacking Surfer was saying, and you watch this on Netflix. What's the To Kill a Mocking, or not To Kill a Mocking, but The Mockingbird or something like that, or The Hunger Games. That's what it was. That that's just you know that's I think a lot, very much a corner that we've turned onto, and we're all online, we're all somewhat in it, we're all our own actions are going to make a difference on our outcomes. It's like we're in it now, and they've thrown us in it. And I kind of seen that happen, like in 20 when through the pandemic. I was like, okay, we just kicked off on a whole new paradigm now, and it's like we're in the movie now. It's like, I don't know. That's going a little deep, maybe, but yeah, I
well,
felt
when you watch the WWF, the crowd is just as much a part of the show as the ring. Y- You
that's a good
know,
that's a good point. Yeah, yeah. They
so
talk about the circuses and bread in Rome, right? Like that's how they help to deal with it now, and that's just so much more amplified now to me. But
it,
interesting to think about.
I think part of that is, with modern technology, our ability to communicate and participate has, exponentially increased. It's nothing for a guy to coordinate, from San Diego to New York, with some guy in New York, like coordination is easy. And so while we as peaceful, common sense, uh, uh, moral people are doing things in a moral and peaceful way, there are people that now have the ability to coordinate and effectuate their plans like never before. And these are not peaceful, nor are they moral people.
Yeah,
And we're staving off, we're resisting that culture with a culture of morality. But when people become ignorant and apathetic, willingly ignorant and apathetic, then shit, man, you're we're in for a big fight, I keep trying to find a conclusion here where there's some kind of like a remedy, but it doesn't seem like there's a remedy. It seems like there's a mitigation of like how much can you insulate from this environment, really kind of becomes the question for me. How do I insulate from this? Because uh, I'm not making the changes I want to be able to make. I'm trying. But while we peacefully protest, peacefully lawsuit, peacefully run legislations, these guys ain't stopping, or are they slowing down? We're a million miles an hour behind them. We're catching up on things from 2010 still,
Yeah,
and every year they're just cranking out new laws. You know how hard it is to get into the Supreme Court anyways, and how many cases they even see a year?
yeah, right.
You couldn't challenge every law in Supreme Court.
No doubt, no doubt. Yeah, and I want to capture something here that 3D Woodworks is saying too, and just kind of pointed out, he was wanting to teach his kids how to drive on a dirt road before they can get pulled over, and that reminds me when I at Southeast Below, it says I learned on a tractor. I learned to drive as just a little kid on my dad's lap, and he would get it set and he'd put it in 4 low, and then put it in as a stick shift and put it in gear 1, and just let it idle, and he'd jump out and start throwing hay bales off to the cows while I stood on the seat and kind of steered the truck,
That's awesome.
and then I'd slowly just kind of turn a great big circle, and he'd just jump out and get in when he wanted to and stop it. But like that's a time that I can see some of us have lived through, and I do, it's going to be that type of thing is going to, I don't know. I understand the comment. 3D Woodworks anyway, that's for sure.
He's right, though. That's all we can do, though. He brings up a good point. All we can do is try to shield the next generation through proper education and instruction. You know, like let them know why and how things are working, how and why, you know,
Yeah.
and then what they can do with it, and then you just try to get them like the driving thing. If you can get his kiddo driving properly before he ever hits a road, the likelihood of him being pulled over for doing the right thing is low to none, you know.
Yeah.
Where'd you go, buddy?
Here, thinking. Yeah. Yeah.
So I'm thinking trades, like next generation, man. If I'm talking to young kids nowadays, don't get me wrong, like there are good college educations to be had, but to just tell a kid to go jump into just go to college and figure it out as you go is not something I would ever encourage to the
That
youth. But a trade, jump into any trade, and start there.
real life. Yep.
Yeah, and honestly, most of those guys are making more money than your half of your college grads.
Especially of late. It's really kind of the times are changing on the college being such a needed thing. I think it had its ebb and already.
And education used to be a luxury, you know?
Yeah.
To learn more than what it took to survive used to be a luxury that used to be respected and desired, you know?
Yep. Yeah.
And
It costs so much nowadays too, right? Like so many people go in and then it's not even worthwhile coming out on the other side for them with the bills they got.
you do better with YouTube.
Yeah, and then that's it. Like times are changing so much. Yeah, exactly.
Yep, learning several trades will carry you. I absolutely agree. Diversity. I'm a big speaker on diversity, diversify your investments, diversify your lifestyle, diversify your day, definitely diversify your trades.
Yeah, and homesteading is even better. Yeah, I agree. But I think not a lot of people are going to be able to do that. But it's definitely if I had my pick of ways you could just do, if you could do it, that would be a great one.
what are some of the things y'all are doing in chat? Like, I mean, are you guys are you doing greenhouses? You raising chickens and cattle? Are you preserving your meats and foods? Are you buying extra precious metals? Maybe a different type of investment you're working on? Like, what are you guys doing to kind of get ahead of some of this nonsense? I'd love to see if there was something I could be doing.
Yeah, well, I could pretty much check the mark on most of those things you said there.
Yeah, it's like really what, like a good ethical, moral lifestyle, like a constitutional, God fearing lifestyle, to me looks like, you know, it looks like a little piece of dirt that you work. You put you try to supplement or raise and grow your food to the most you can. Try to, any extra food, you try to put it away as quickly as you can. You know, anything beyond that is just, trying to store and hedge against time and increase, and inflation,
Yeah.
And what more do you really like? Where we get ourselves in trouble all the time is the knickknacks and goodies.
Yep. Oh, yeah, that's one of the more scary things to me is how we live as kings and queens, and if we don't have it within a few minutes, we're upset. And I just think back, sorry to go biblical here on you, but if you think like when Joseph gets sold off into Egypt, and his family at a certain point in that story, the father's talking to the other sons, and he's like, well, what are you guys still doing here standing around? We're going to perish. Why don't you guys go find us something to eat? And they had to travel all the way to Egypt, not even knowing if they were going to get anything to come back. And, it's just like, if you think about that type of a mindset to what we have now, you don't have to buy horseback or camel, travel several states over to get on your knees to beg to see if you can, somehow trade for some goods. We're kind of a supply and demand. We run to the store in 5 minutes, or if Amazon can't deliver it, next day, then we're breaking down. And you know.
Yeah, that's true.
But I think it's nonetheless like here we are talking about homesteading, and not that. And when I look back in history and I look at these ancient coins, speaking of this is another ancient coin I picked up while I was down there, and this is a. Let me zoom in. This is an Aegina stater, and it's one of the earliest coins that was made. And this dates back to 510, 500 BC, but some of the earliest representations of this coin go back to the beginning of coinage at like 650, right in there. Oh, did I lose Space Miner suddenly?
I did that. It was an accident.
Okay.
I was trying to see the coin and I accidentally hit the wrong button. I hit the back and it locked me out.
Sorry. So this is an Aegean stater, and it's from 500 BC, and it's got this little turtle on there, and that represented their wealth. They were kind of an island dwelling people, and a lot of their wealth came from the sea and them manning the merchants at the sea there. And so they put the sea turtle on there. And the early coins have a sea turtle where they only have one row of dots down the sea turtle shell. Right down the very center, there will be dots, and that's the old style. And then as you get more and more modern, they switched over into a land dwelling turtle, and it has little dots and marks all over the shell, a whole bunch of different markings on the shell. But anyway, yeah, when I look back into these ancient cultures, they're not, it's just I don't know. I think at least for me, the way I was taught to look at old cultures as if they were somehow not quite as smart or up to par as we are, and I just don't think that that's really the case. I think that here we are talking about going back to homesteading, and it's just your basics of what you need, and going back to the land doesn't make you any less, you know, valuable or whatever. I don't know what I'm trying to say, but
Yeah, I don't think technology automatically equals sophistication, you
exactly.
know.
Yeah, maybe that's what I'm saying.
And I think a lot of it is relative. I think it's relative to the circumstance, relative to the climate of culture, um, relative to the climate of your economy, right? And but there is nothing ever wrong. Like they really do try really hard to shame that, to shame people that want to like drink fresh milk, that
Right.
want to like raise chickens. And it's an odd thing to me because if you ever challenged them that on these ideas and said, okay, what's wrong with having food? you know, like what's wrong with having food right here at home? You know, like I don't even need an app to get that egg, you know, like you're going to have to get Uber Eats over there to get your egg. So who's cooler now? You know, but
Yeah.
like, but they really do try to shame that culture. And I think people, have that herd mentality. And I think sometimes we're afraid to stand up. Like now, none of us in here is going to have an issue standing up to that, right? But like, you look at some of the things they shame people on, and there's such an overwhelming influence of people agreeing that either people don't want to resist it because they don't want to stand up against such a large crowd that they might not be prepared to argue with, you know, or they end up joining them as a go along, get along, you know. And if half of that crowd is fueled by go along, get alongs, and oh my goodness, here I am again fighting against the crowds, man. Why do they shame us so bad? Is it a top-down control method, or is this like something more internal in all of us, you know?
I don't know. Shaming us for what? What are you touching on there? You're feeling
Shaming the culture, like for example, there's a lot of people that would be quick to shame like the Amish, right?
right, right, right,
Quick to make fun of them, quick to bully them, quick to shame
right,
them for their lifestyle,
right.
but you couldn't articulate anything that had to do with a necessity or a morality or an efficacy. You couldn't challenge them on any of those. The only thing you could challenge them on is a preference based in lust, based in greed, based in excess and gluttony. You see?
Well, yes and no. Yes and no. I definitely know and see where you're coming from, but I wouldn't. That might be a little harsh. I mean,
It is, but it's to make a point.
yeah,
It's
yeah. I definitely
taking
get
it, driving it to the far end.
right, right. Yeah, because I mean, there's a people who would say to that, well, we're just trying to fulfill our highest potential and blah blah blah, and there's truth to that too. So, but yeah, no, I totally see what you're saying, and it's a thing. It's definitely a thing.
Well,
So.
I'll tell you what the Amish don't have is music videos. And that's a wonderful, beautiful example of culture of technology being used in a sophisticated way to benefit culture, right? But
Yeah, can be.
technology doesn't always equal sophistication either, right?
No
So,
doubt. No, just like the internet, right? I mean, I see it as ultimately such a kind of a bad thing, really, and like I still am using it right now for what I consider good things. So, yeah, it's
cloud Who the heck is Cloward Piven? I'm gonna feel so
Cloward
stupid.
Cloward Piven, that's the new, yeah, Cloward Piven theory. That's Andy Scheckman's been parroting that a lot. Who said that?
Stewart did. He said Stewart suggested top down, bottom up, Cloward Piven
Yeah,
strategy.
Cloward Piven's. Yep. Yeah. So
So just like burning the candle at both ends, is that what you're saying?
so the Cloward Piven strategy, or correct me if I'm wrong here, Stuart, is there's a couple teachers in high up places in universities, some of the top universities, and they were married, I believe, and they put out kind of a theory on what was it? They kind of that there should be a two-tiered society. Oh, and how they would kind of tear our current government down and install a top-down government like that we were getting before this shake, and may still have, depending on how things shake out. you know, uh, yeah, they kind of laid out before, and I think they were Obama's teachers even, and they had wrote a little book on how you would go about taking over a country like that.
Hmm.
He says,
I don't know how I walked past that.
Well, it's you kind of gotta probably be listening to certain people, but I think it's probably a legit thing and a legit paper. And I know that there are other, aside from them, there's even other high ups that are in our schools, man. I mean, this is where, see, they went after our school early on, and obviously, how come, that and our monetary system are the places that we should have been watching the most and the closest, and we just gave them away. I mean, I watched the school go from, whether you think biblical is good or bad, like that's how we learned to read when we first founded America, and our birth certificate was the family Bible, and we learned to read in the Bible, and it was how you schooled, was from the Bible. And now we're so far, like the school has been culturally so flipped upside down, and I was seeing that when I was in school, walking through school, like, man, things are really getting turned upside down here, and it's just only gotten worse, I think, till now. And that's why I'm homeschooling my kids, is because, which I would never have thought I would ever do, but no way I'm gonna go putting them in with what's going on now. And that's how extreme it's got. Like, it was not my plan to do it that way, but anyway, now I'm rambling.
Southeast Stacker, looks like you've been talking about the Amish for a bit. You in the Amish area? I used to live in Pennsylvania, man. That's why I asked. I'm familiar with the Amish. Ain't nothing funnier in the world than some 17-year-old boy with a full-grown beard ripping down the street on his little two-wheel scooter. Split pedal scooter, man. Holy moly. You want to see funny. I shouldn't I'm not bullying, but holy crap, it is a sight to see. NPA. All right. I was in Lebanon. OTG was in PA.
Comments are cracking me up.
You need an Amish girl on a bike. You don't want an Amish girl, bro. You don't want an Amish girl. I don't know, unless you like French girls too.
Oh man.
Yeah, I should be nicer.
But yeah, no, they're catching some people's attention for, not having to do like, I liked what they said about, when they asked the Amish, how'd the Amish community deal with COVID? How'd you guys get through it? And they said, oh, just fine. We didn't have a TV.
Yeah, fair enough, right?
Right.
That's another thing too. There's a lot of us, man. Like, I'm just stable enough and not involved in the world enough that, like, there are days that I wouldn't know if the world was crashing around me. because I'm not like dependent upon the world. I'm not sucked up into the world. You know, I'm not mostly not participating with the world, and so like I've mitigated a huge portion of my like daily hazards in life. The government, you know,
Yeah. Check
and
out. Go ahead.
no, please.
I was gonna say, check out what I got in my hand here. What do you think this is?
All right, let me see if I can do this time without losing you. All right, I got it. Let me see if I can. Come on, let me see the whole. Is that silver shot? No. Is that gallium? What
Boom.
is it?
Yep, gallium.
Oh, nice, dude.
Yeah.
How many grams is that? 50?
I don't know. I bought it. So I met Cranky Stacker the other day at a coin store here in Colorado.
Dude, that's 100 grams, I bet.
He came down to Colorado and we met at a coin store, and I was in there and I seen this and I'm like, I bet that's gallium. And so I asked the guy, and there was like another capsule full of it. And it was this was laying on top of the capsule, kind of like that. And so I asked the guy, what's in that? And he's like, I don't know. And so they took it to the owner, and the owner didn't, nobody knew what it was. I'm like, I bet that's gallium. And so they took it and tested it on their metal on the Sigma, and it came back over 88% pure gallium. So yeah, but then it says, it's over 99 here. But so yeah, gallium is my first gallium. I mean, they didn't know what it was. It took them a while to figure out how to sell this to me at the coin store, but it was a fun little talk.
Yeah, it seems weird that you would pick up like a less than pure gallium. Like it's probably registering something, maybe the bottle itself, you know? I don't know. Gallium's kind of weird stuff, but it's really easy to clean, you
Is
know?
it? So if I take it out, I can maybe get it back in there, or will I lose it forever if I take it out?
It depends what you do with it. Like gallium does wet stuff. So like it'll like stick to like little micro pores and surfaces, you know?
Don't let it mix with other stuff, kind of.
Yeah, so like plastic's one of the best things you can actually hold it in. Glass also works really well. It will wet glass, but usually if you bring up the temperature enough, it'll drop off the glass too.
Interesting.
Yeah, and gallium, if you mixed a bunch of aluminum with the gallium and then like poured it into some water
Yeah,
or
you're
pour
getting
some water onto it, gassed it off, right?
right.
Well, you would get clean gallium out of it.
So
It would
you
it
can
would take
re-recover
the
your gal.
impurities with it, and you would have clean gallium at the bottom. I'm just saying it's an easy way to process it.
Huh. Interesting.
And
That
then
was so cool to watch, Space Miner. You're gonna have to get the glass blower. Get you a light for your automatic lighter. I like that idea. And show people how walk people. You should make a little video and actually do it. Like actually, I mean, I think that's amazing. Like that's so brainiac to me. And I know it's a thing. It's chemistry, but like that's cool to me to watch that guy. I didn't know that. It's so cool to see that.
yeah, I mean, guys do it. I went looking the other day and to see. I was just trying to figure out like a good container for it or whatever, and I stumbled on a couple other guys doing the same. Burning gallium, burning hydrogen, out of it. But they were just making little soap bubbles of gallium. Like I want to make the torch, and OTG is that glass blower.
Well, there you go. Let's get some glass blown there. OTG, you cracked me up. OTG, did you see his his comment up here? He says, "Bible in one hand, solar panel in the other."
Oh no!
Yeah, so fun.
OTG, you just keep it going, buddy. I don't know how you do it. Yeah, I need to I was just doing the creep method because I didn't want to use a lot of gallium on that aluminum. But like if I just smush a whole bunch together, like I found that like apparently a whole bunch of people have figured this out, and the best ratio is like a 3-to-1 ratio, and I think that's 3 aluminum to 1 gallium.
Hmm,
But pretty much if I was to use more gallium, it would I wouldn't have to wait for everything. I'm just like keeping it like real minimalist,
sure.
not burning a lot of gallium. But I was thinking about it. I was like, man, for that next one, I think I'm just gonna mix a bunch together until I get the goo, you
Yeah,
know.
don't blow yourself up, but make it worthwhile for the viewers. It'll be I'd be impressed to see that.
Yeah, I was just trying to hang out and do something and prep it. But yeah, this next one I'm definitely just gonna like use a bunch of gallium. I'm gonna have it like warm and ready, to pour and just stick it in a container, mix it up real good, pour the water on it, and get to burning. You know,
Cool.
so that's the hope. But
Yeah, so getting back to fundamentals and stacking, and I think we're just kind of starting to see why I started stacking. I think that you know I'm I'm starting to get that feeling that I wasn't wrong, and that what I was seeing is playing out, and I think we're just now starting to come on, like the train hasn't left, like Mike Maloney's always saying, the train hasn't left the station yet, and the train hasn't left the station yet, and I think that we're still haven't left the station, but I think we're getting closer. I think we're starting to see some of the main, like it's starting to make its rounds, that you know we might look into the Fed. We've got record gold demand from London to now back to the States. Now that we're trying to look in our vaults, that seems pretty suspicious that that's hitting home suddenly altogether. And yeah, I think the unwinding that I've thought, what is this gonna look like, and what will the chaos be when, and I think we're starting to see some of that starting to happen. And so I would say it's a great time to get in.
so what's next? Bank freezes?
What's next? What?
Bank freezes?
Bank freezes? Yeah, I
No.
don't know if the banks will, yeah, I don't know. I think that
Delayed payments?
we're
You
gonna
know?
see the like right now, the big thing of course is if more gold can't be delivered to countries, and silver can't be delivered on time to the companies that need it to build their products. Uh, I think that's stuff that we'll start to see, and that will reinforce the looking into the metals. And once that starts to happen, I think it'll go kind of like Mike Maloney says on the it'll suddenly be unobtainium. It'll be hard to come by because the price will be getting so outrageous.
That's one of the things that got me into platinum. Um, you know, just platinum's been like mute forever, you know? And like everybody's like, what the heck's going on? And to me, when you start talking about unobtainium, gold and silver is pretty abundant compared to like platinum, right?
Yeah.
And but platinum's the platinum and platinum group metals are so dependent upon the economy, meaning like it costs real wages to produce this stuff. It takes real industrial efforts to produce this. They're not just sifting it out of the ground and hitting it with a blowtorch. You know what I mean? And so when you start talking about unobtainium, man, that's what gets me into platinum. One of the reasons I trust the investment in platinum is because there's coming a time when we hit that wall, right, where everything becomes unobtainium, and we're going to have major industrial markets depending on large amounts of precious metals. And the two that strike me as like absolutely necessary right away are silver and platinum,
Yeah.
you know, but the gold is important because of the world economy, because everybody chose
Yep.
gold.
Yep. Yep. But I am one of those that think gold for safety, yes, but I'm holding on to silver, and even like I'm like you, I like to grab a little platinum because of its ridiculousness as it is right now while I can, and I think those will actually bypass the performance of gold. So
Well, all the things that make gold valuable are all the things that silver and platinum do even better, you know?
yeah,
And like we really, really, really need silver and platinum. And like gold is a great hedge and it probably always will be until it's not, you know? But I'm if you're not into platinum, and I get that, then you need to at least be on silver because I think silver will have its day. There's
yeah,
just too many people in the world tightening their belt buckle, right now, and there are only a few like world world renowned sources of trustworthy stores of value. Did I say that right?
yeah,
When everybody's tightening their belt buckle, there's only going to be a few places you can look. The whole world has agreed that, like, yes, this is a store of value and we need this stuff. And so they're going to rip, you know, they're going to rip away. And when we start seeing it shooting up, one of the saddest things about it is when gold's going up, while everybody's cheering that gold's going up, I'm a little bit like unnerved considering that means, hey man, dollar's going down.
yep,
you
yep.
know?
In fact, yeah, I mean, I think it's even further than we are realizing right now. I think that's why we're seeing we got to see such ridiculousness at the top levels of corruption and printing and just outright jaw dropping. Wow, did you really just do that stuff? Is that that like it takes see because it's all fake air and it's just really until when it comes through the understanding of the people then and the inflation is our teacher on that, but so many people haven't quite figured that out. But I think that's all that's holding it up. It's not like there's not already another fake pumped in there. It's just as to when it's going to come out, the pop or whatever, however you say that.
Well, right. It's like they're just diluting the real issue, you know? Like the unavoidable truth. Like time time validates truth. I guess I could say that, right? Like what you can manipulate this all you want, but at the end of the day, you know, somebody's got to get paid, right? And you can't sustain it. Well, we all know it's unsustainable. I'm speaking a generic truth at this moment, but like you said, it's going to hit. How long before the banks just, it doesn't matter how much credit they got because their buddy, the bank, ain't got the money to give them because
Right.
they're all waiting on the Fed. And the Fed's just printing it out and diminishing the value of it, meaning they're just going to need more of it.
Yep.
And it's an exponential crisis.
Yep. And then we're already on that curve. See, like inflation just keeps hitting and hitting, and prices keep going up. And there's no, it's not like the prices on the shelves are going to come down. Your inflation might cool off a little bit, but the price on the shelf isn't really going to come down from here, only up. And it just how long is it going to take the purchaser power, the person in there buying from the until they realize that it's their dollar that's going down and not that the goods that are on the shelf going up. And it's not the store owner that's doing it to you. It's that the very paper that you're thinking is money is what is stealing your value. And it's we you know Yeah, you need to come up with the very most basic way for people. Mike Maloney did a really good job when he did the Hidden Secrets of Money. Did you see that?
No, I didn't. I'll
That's a
have to
good
look at
one.
that.
It is. It's like a 10 part series or something, and he kind of goes through history and the beginnings of gold and silver and shows how we got into the place where we are now. But that's basically it. I mean, you need just that basic understand. If you can understand that gold is money and has been for thousands of years, and that there's only a little bit of it, and to get more it takes a lot of manpower and effort, so it kind of keeps the trade even amongst people, and it's just kind of a natural law in that way, and that's what keeps your trade even, and even weights and balances. And when that's your monetary system, you don't have inflation or very little. And then when you transfer to a paper printer as your substitute for the money, and then you take that paper substitute and completely detach it from the money. I mean, that's the key, is really that switch there. When it goes to the guy in a magic hat who can just poof, like he's pulling a magic rabbit out of his hat, poof, there's $1 trillion, here you go. you know that's really what I think. However you can transfer that information easiest to the public, that's what needs to be, I don't know, if turned into a whiteboard video from George Cameron, or somebody needs to do an easy understandable. And then if you could somehow just get the whole world to watch that commercial a few times.
While you're talking about gold being natural money, right?
Yeah.
I'd like to point out, just since we're talking about fundamentals for a minute, is that necessity to have one of the reasons gold and silver and precious metals are important is that they're a recognized, like standardized, accepted form of payment. So what I mean by that is, like, one of the issues of money back in the day, and you should be well versed in this, being in ancient coins, right? Is that, like, standardization of money was like a real issue. Like, when one guy's bartering salt and then he takes it somewhere else, and this guy's already got a bunch of salt, or people aren't communicating these same values, because the guy's got a whole bunch of corn, and he sure it's worth this value, and then he takes it somewhere else and it's not worth that value anymore. It destabilizes a market. But when you have a common form of exchange, you have an objective reference point to also base prices off of too, right?
Yep.
So when a guy takes his corn around and he says, well, you know, even though it is more or less, they still have a stabilized reference point to still point at. It is this much per gold. But when you have this much corn per corn, it doesn't work the same way, right? Or this much corn per salt, or
Right.
whatever. You really need a limited reference point. You need an objective reference point to say, like, look, we need to weigh all of these against one value to create a perspective,
Yep.
to gain perspective on it. You
Yep.
know, like, if everybody set their watch to a different time, it wouldn't mean jack.
Right.
But because we can point at one time, then all of a sudden now we can all communicate on the same level again.
Yeah. I mean, that's basically what we're doing with $3,000 gold being now that the gold has surpassed, it's at a high in every fiat currency now, including the dollar. That's the world hegemony. So it's now just kind of waving the flag up above everything else, saying, this is, I'm the real measurement stick, even though we know right now it's being manipulated down. And the free market is at least taking it up to this point, with the banks even shorting it like they are. So it's still even breaking through with the manipulation, saying, take a look at these devaluing fiats. So
It makes me wonder with old Senator Soup, or legislator Soup, whatever you want to call her,
yeah,
are they even interested in it? Like, I think you raised a really good question to him, and I don't know if you quite got the answer it deserved, but was asking him about the kickback of this when you were raising that point to him, like say to JP,
yeah,
right? You said, JP, have you, are these people feeling threatened? Like
right.
as if you're, I don't know, maybe you can fill in the audience a little bit
Yeah,
better about
I
the
said,
flow.
do the states feel like you're attacking their base, that they're making their growth from? They're getting their growth from the corruption of the fiat currency getting pumped to them, and here you are bringing a sound money idea to them. Do they feel like you're attacking their livelihood or their ability to grow? And he said it wasn't something that he felt like that they were coming out at him about, but moreover that just they had no overall understanding even of the monetary system, and that a lot of them would have thought that we were still backed by gold, he said. So they just, a lot of them just don't even have any type of understanding of the monetary. Again, they just probably trust that, oh, well, someone in the banking system would tell me if there's something wrong. Like everyone doesn't realize that everyone's just been told to go along kind of with this Federal Reserve system that snuck in and closed doors while everyone was out, and that their secret meeting on, what was it, that Jekyll Island. And they, in 1913, they all had a private meeting of these high top bankers and said, well, we'll create this Federal Reserve so we can control the monetary system. And before that, we didn't have taxes, and that's when the birth certificate came in, and we got a registered number, and they started trading us on the stock exchange. And then now we're serfdoms to the Fed, because if you owe your time and money to someone else, you're not free to have your own labor, which was what freedom and serfdom was kind of based on. And through changing language, through slick words, deceiving, not telling the truth, trying to get people to think that everything's on the up and up, everyone has believed it all this time. And that's just kind of my take on it. Like, that's why I was asking him that, like, how are the states thinking? And it's just that we don't have the knowledge to that we're being ripped off this whole time at a steady rate of inflation that is their target. That's what they want. They want at least 2%, but we've been way higher lately. So
It does make me wonder though if they even at this point want to know the truth, because like if they, let's say they did, like they're like, okay, I do want to know the truth. Let's say they were really honest. Okay, weird, right? But they're really honest and they say, okay, yeah, I really do want to know the truth. I want to do the right thing, right? And you started laying down the truth, they would have to deconstruct almost every position
exactly.
they've
Yeah.
stood firmly on.
Yep. That's it. See.
They'd have to restart.
Yep.
And
And
I don't think they want to.
I see that in a lot of areas in society, and when I allowed myself to realize that was being lied to about lots of things, and to just kind of try to let the truth show through, I seen that we are being lied to about a lot of things, not maybe everything, but a lot of it. And it's when you think that you're not being lied, I mean, you're just going along with all the stuff, and so for someone to come up to you and say, no, that's all wrong and not true, and it's hard for a lot of people who have never taken that road to really allow themselves to think that maybe there really truly could be some you know lies being told me on my foundation.
Some people, man, that cognitive dissonance hits them, and they feel threatened by you,
Yeah.
as if you are telling them they are stupid,
Right.
and how could you be such an idiot, and like, and they kind of feel like you're saying that, like, because they're, it's like an offense, like, there's no way I could be that freaking wrong.
Right.
Like, how dare you? Like, you're telling me everything I've ever learned was wrong and a lie, and that I'm just stupid and a fool and I believed it all. And that's how, like, the human brain wants to treat it, right? Because, like, we like to, have some faith in ourselves.
Right.
We like to trust ourselves and say, I made the right decision and I thought that out. And that's why we say things like, you don't understand, you weren't there, you're not me, you don't know what I was feeling, right? And so, like, to be challenged, like, kind of like myself as a Christian man, when you talk to people about, like, fellow Christians, we'll just aim it at that. When you talk to a fellow Christian about his Christian belief, and you even mention, like, you don't even have to challenge the guy on something. You just mention something different than what he believes, right? And he says, and it's like, the thought could scare him that, like, oh my goodness, there's somebody else out there that legit believes this. And I think that desire for truth in us latches onto those moments and says, hey, this guy could be right. But if he's right, that means I'm in the wrong right now. And there's nothing more combative you'll get out of a Christian than challenging his salvation, right? And if he feels in fear of his own salvation, of his own righteousness, that he could be wrong, just the idea that he could be wrong is enough to set him off sometimes.
Yeah.
And so when we're talking about financial, like, so now, like, take that kind of a spirit and then put it on some of these quote unquote financial minds, these
Right.
people that have been running our banks, these legislators, these, pick your financial person, right?
Yep.
And they are that clueless that they think when you talk bullion, they think you're talking soup.
Yeah.
Like, and you go challenging them on it. Dude, these people are, like, in fear of everything they've ever believed in,
Right.
that, and that they could actually be the bad guy now.
Right. Yeah. And that's yeah. Yeah. Yeah, and if we're trying to really help, we need to be careful on how we approach people on those subjects, I suppose. And
No, we don't. No, our culture is blood blind. Our modern America is blood blind, and we have no idea that saying something mean to a person could get you a bloody lip. You know what I'm saying?
yeah,
There's no repercussions. There's no accountability. There's when I think that's part of our issue is they taught us all the naughty words, which is what? Religion, finances, politics, marriage, the naughty words. Fuck that. Excuse my language. Sorry. Get you demonetized or something. I don't know. But sorry, that was a rant. You didn't deserve that.
no, no, that's fine. Well, it's interesting. There's so I should probably be careful how far I go down this rabbit hole, but there's something that's even going around now. There's a video that was made, and you know, some people are saying, oh, it's good and deserved, and some people are saying, oh, you got to be careful on how you react, you know. So I'm gonna, oh boy, I'm gonna get myself into some big trouble here.
Do it. Do it.
So there's this plane that went down the other day, and it lit. And when it was landing, it looks to, and I don't know if I'm right. The narrative that people are talking about in the news is, oh, maybe it was coming down too fast, and because it was coming down too fast when it lit, it kind of pushed the wheel up into the wing, and that tore the wing off. And then the plane kind of slid to a stop and rolled over onto its top. And luckily, nobody died and everybody got out. But the thing that became interesting was that that flight and that crew had done a bunch of, they made commercials and they were posting on social media that this flight was unique because there was no men in authority on this flight, and it was an all-girl crew, and blah 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 blah, and all because of the new DEI hire policy. See, and they were putting, they, another commercial they did was kind of poking fun at other airlines for not having anything to do with this new DEI, you know, and but they do, and that they're better, and that they have this all girl squad. Well, then they go on and on their one of these, they, you know, have this accident right after they made all these, you know, statements, and it just, you got to be careful though, like, you know, you don't want to, like to me that's you know, if you're not hiring people off of their merit, off of their skill level, off their amount of work that they've been put in to get to that level, I mean, if it's something important, that should be the case, right? and and if you're, you know, and so if you're going to try to put someone who isn't capable and hasn't proved themselves, and it is, you know, then you're going to come to a big problem possibly coming up. And so, you know, I mean, obviously that was going to happen at some point, but the point was is to not, you know, they shouldn't be being biggity before they have flown the plane, because look what happened. Now they just put the, you know, they put their foot in their mouth. And but on the same side, we need to be careful not to, you know, you don't want to mock your, you know, someone when they stumble, and you know that they're gonna stumble, and you know, so you point it out, but you know, you need to not be laughing about it or mocking about it. Or at least I try to teach my family morally not to, you know, if your brother or even someone you don't like falls, don't, you know, don't mock them, don't laugh at them in their face, because you're kind of, you get what you sow, right? You reap what you sow. And if you're, you know,
The
laugh,
shame of failure is enough.
yeah, you know, that's gonna, you know, now you're setting yourself up to you know, put yourself in that type of situation, you know. And so I always try to say, you need to try to keep humble in all of those situations. Not only should you have not made those ridiculous videos in the first place, but now that the destruction has come, and we're so obviously proven right how foolish that was, we also need to be careful on how we're laughing and mocking them, because, you know, it's you don't render evil for evil, I guess is what I'm getting at basically. But
Oh man, I say some things sometimes, buddy, that I look back later and I'm like, oh, I wish I wouldn't have said that, because now I just know I deserve that one now, like for myself. You know, like
yeah.
I have reaped, I have sown so many contentious seeds that nowadays, dude, I don't even question whenever I get filled with something now. I'm just like, yeah, I probably had that coming.
Yeah.
Like,
Well, that's
but
right.
no, you're right though. You're right. It'll never stop happening unless we stop doing it.
Right.
Right.
That's what I'm. Yep. That's what I'm saying. Is we kind of need to be the adults in the room at some point. If anybody's ever going to be an adult, and that's what I feel like I need to try to start being, because otherwise I fall into it just like, I jump in and now I'm in the middle of screaming match that's going to get nowhere. And it's just like I got to be better myself or else I can't point fingers. So anyway.
Yeah, and because I do think it is important to point fingers.
Yeah.
Like
Well,
I
I definitely agree that we, punishment wise, we should be like we were talking about the road bumps earlier. I'd rather the punishment be doled out than the rest of society stands on the back of their heads so someone else can be stupid. I don't believe in that either. You can definitely get too carried away where you're being whereas just a true statement and truth would be enough, where you're going to make it in a mocking voice and a laughing at it like that just kind of ruins the truth that you could have delivered if you would have done it in an upright way. I guess is kind of to what I'm getting at, is maybe honest justice without the mockery or something is a more better thing for the way I look at it. But anyway, I'm getting kind of off topic, so
this whole conversation tonight's been off topic.
it has been. It has
I
been.
like it. No, I like it. It's cool. It's rolling, man.
Yeah. And we
Well,
probably should wrap it up, because tomorrow night, normally I have Ian with Arc Silver Gold Osmium on, and I just gave him a call today, and he's really sick. When I talked to him, I could tell it was some type of heavy cold or something, and so I don't think he's going to make it on tomorrow night. But hopefully we'll get him back on when he's up and at him. So. But we might pop back in tomorrow night with another live stream, and we'll have some topics to cover, and instead of just rambling on like we did tonight, we'll try to cover some pertinent topics for the time. So, but I appreciate everybody coming in the chat, and Space Miner, thanks for hanging out with me as always.
man, thanks for having me. I had a lot of fun bouncing around tonight, and
Cool.
just want to take a second and say real quick, man, Daryl, Stu, OTG, and we got Raka, and I'm new to Raka, so I hadn't seen Raka before.
Rock Moss is the man.
And we got 3D up in here, and Daryl, man, I really do appreciate you guys. You guys are such a huge part of the community to me. So,
Yep. Thanks for
I
hanging
am.
out, guys. Greatly appreciated. And always, drop if you guys come up with something you want us to talk about or question or whatnot. Definitely throw it at us, because we like to ramble on about whatever subject. So, all right. Well, I think I'm gonna call it for tonight, and yeah, we will catch you guys on the next one. Thanks all.
Asta.